Hi, this is Lady C.
And this is JT.
Welcome to another episode of The Critical Thought. And in the upcoming episode, we're going to be chit-chatting with Dom. And we're carrying on with our Unbaptized Jehovah's Witness series and episodes. And he's coming all the way across the pond from the UK to tell his story about what life was like, how he was treated, and how he was able to pick up the pieces and move on.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yep.
So we want to welcome Dom to the platform. Hey, Dom, how you doing?
Oh, yeah. How's it going?
Hey, Don, how you doing this afternoon, man? Good.
Well, it's night for me, but...
Oh, that's
Yeah, it's like what?
Yeah.
It's like 12 o'clock over there,
Yeah,
right?
we're in the early hours.
It's like 7 here in DC, yeah.
Right.
Hey, man, we're glad to have you on, though. Thanks for hanging out. As they say, thanks for hanging out with us.
Absolutely. So, Dom, what has it been like for you growing up as a Jehovah's Witness? You want to give our audience a little bit of background and history about how you woke up, and just give us a little bit of history about who you are.
Yeah, as a kid, what was it like?
Okay, so as a kid, really, the obvious thing is remembering, obviously, I didn't have Christmas and everything like the rest of the kids. So it was when, really, from what I remember, I was about 3 or 4 years old, when the witnesses would come. I remember when my mum was first having a Bible study. And then suddenly we were going to this meeting, and it was part of my life. So going on through that until I actually was old enough to think for myself and think this isn't right. It was probably when I was about 13, I started asking a lot of questions that I wasn't getting answered to. And when I was told, "Oh, go on the what was it called? The CD-ROM, the CD-ROM sort of thing. Go on that to get answers, and don't go on the internet." And I was like, why can't I search things on there? Oh, there's bad people on there. There's apostates, and all. So until I was, it was when I was 16, 17. I was on YouTube looking at things, and it was the John Cedars channel that I came across eventually, and I think I already had my mind pretty much set on, this end right, that it was being educated by him and hearing other people's experiences that really helped me.
Did you find yourself afraid? Because some people, when they get ready to start peeking into things, they literally are afraid to go on what's called apostate sites.
Yeah, I remember when I went on to the John Cedars channel. I remember feeling like this. I just felt like eerie, like, oh, there's demons around me. This is the reason why I'm doing this. So I still felt that presence, that fear of God. I still had the fear of God until my mum actually woke up another 10 years later. So when I was, looking at those videos, it was, I kind of never, I didn't even tell my mum, obviously, it was going on those as well. And it was a couple of years that I didn't watch it. And then I came back to it, and I didn't feel like scared anymore. But yeah, there was definitely a massive fear of maybe it was even subconsciously. It was a fear of you've wasted your life, sort of thing. You've lost your childhood, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it was more like I probably wanted it to still be the truth, because then it wouldn't have felt like such a waste.
Wow. Hey, Dom, were you one of those people that were like just lurking on videos, but you were just afraid to subscribe, and then eventually you felt comfortable?
Yeah, it was. I didn't really like talking about it, like in the comment section or anything like that, because I felt like, oh, what if someone sees me? Like, the chances of someone seeing it, and I'd read through all the comments, and then sometimes it would get very heated quite easily, and. I think some witnesses that were on there that were actually told not to go on those sites were there.
They were there
scaring people to get off the site. You know what I mean? So why were they there in the first
I know,
place?
right?
Like, you know, when they've been,
Why you here, right?
the elders told them in there, don't go on those sites, but there they are. And yeah, it's
yeah. Now I remember you were saying the Watchtower CD when it came out, 'cause I think you were like in the 90s, and I remember that too.
yeah.
And so you remember the time when the Watchtower was telling people to stay off the internet, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the dangers
Okay.
of the internet. I can picture I mean, even if it was an Awake magazine or something, like you'd have the keyboard. It was all like dark blue lighting, and there's just see the hands on it, and it was just like, you know, and there's danger, like, you know, like if, yeah, it's just
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but for me at the time when you're a kid, it's like, oh, colorful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we remember those times when they didn't even want the brothers were starting to, you know, come up with their own forms and how to fill out the time and all that kind of stuff. And so the Watchtower Society is like, oh no, you can't use those forms. You got to use our stuff, and you still got to, you know, put it in those little paper, in the paper form.
The paper. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, JW.org came to life, and it's like, okay, you can go online now, but you can only be on JW.org, you know?
Yeah.
But can you kind of like go back a little bit for us here and talk about, you know, what you remember about just growing up, going to school, you know, and when you went to school, even though you didn't get baptized, you know, how you felt like, hey, look, there's no difference between not being baptized and being baptized.
So, I mean, I lived a bit of a sort of double life at the weekend. So I'd go off with my dad and be in worldly association. And I also was still able to see certain friends from my school as well, which my mum allowed for some reason. It always confused me because it was very contradictory of what you'd hear at the hall and be told about worldly association. But I started to notice that it was every Tuesday and Thursday, or there was a book study group, the normal meeting on a weeknight, and then a Sunday one as well. And because our town was quite big, there was 3 different congregations in the town, so the times would always change over the years. Like everyone would have the early and the later slots, and it was exhausting. Like I think that if I wasn't learning so much and information trying to come through from the Bible, I might have done better at school, because I wasn't good academically. Really, I always did struggle. And it's only now in recent years that I can pick things up and really learn them and be confident in them. Whereas before I was confident on knowing what Moses said on Mount Sinai or whatever it was, but I couldn't tell you, like, you know, couldn't even go into some basic maths or something, like, you know, maths equation or something like that. So that was like the main sort of struggles really with school. And once when I didn't go on the field service that much, but there was once when I actually knocked on the door and the school bully, a couple of years older than me, answered the door. So, and that was one of the most horrible experiences I think I ever had as a child.
Oh yeah, there's nothing worse than meeting your classmates out in field service. I remember an elder man. He knocked on the door, and one of my classmates came to the door, and he turned to me and said, JT, y'all about the same age. Go ahead and talk to him. And I was like, oh man, please.
But JT, Dom just said the school bully answered the door.
That is true. That's a
whole
Chief, he can be ready for you on Monday.
situation.
He can be ready for you on Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
What was that like, Dom? What was that like? Can you explain that?
It was worse because it was before the book study. So there was this when they did a special leaflet that was limited edition or whatever they called it. We'd actually turn up for the book study an hour early in the evening. So I think it was probably about 6 o'clock in the evening that we were going out to knocking on doors. So I actually saw the guy he'd get on the same train as me, and he'd already been obviously horrible to me. And that just obviously gave him a lot more ammunition the next day. So it was So it was literally the next day that I was dreading going to school. I was on the doors with my mum as well, and I didn't do field service. She didn't mind that I didn't do it ever again after that, because I was
really?
I was traumatized, to be
Traumatized,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
I can
I-
imagine.
some of
I
us
can
play
imagine.
sick.
I
Yeah, we
actually
play sick. We play sick. Yeah. Oh man, but let
Well,
me
let me
ask
ask you
you
this.
Go ahead.
We both said at the same time. What I want to know is about the bully. So, did the bully know that you were a Jehovah's Witness
No,
before
no,
you
he
went to
didn't.
his door?
Wow.
I managed to keep that quite quiet at school. I was the only thing in my first school is that I was excluded from going to the assemblies, like where they sing hymns and stuff.
Yeah.
That's when they knew something was different about me, but we were so young then that you didn't have to explain anything, and kids didn't really question it anything.
Okay.
So in terms of that, I didn't really get any sort of like persecution complex sort of thing developed through going to school. It was more just missing out on having to explain to close friends that I don't celebrate Christmas, or acting like I do still, because my dad would still buy me presents.
Oh,
so
that's right. Yeah.
So it still looked like I was getting stuff for Christmas. So I kind of got away with it in that way. But I'm sure my mum would have wanted me to say loudly and proudly that I don't celebrate Christmas. I didn't get any Christmas presents. I'm a weird kid, so just stay away from me. That's probably what she would have wanted me to say, and turn the other cheek and everything else that she did say to me when I was bullied.
What was the deal with your mom and dad? So when your mom became a witness, was she married to your father?
No, they were never married. But they stayed on. They were on good terms, like for as long as I can remember. So that was quite easy. It was quite amicable in that way. But they broke up, and it was a couple of years later that she found. I was going to call it the truth then.
That's true. I know.
I hate saying it because it's like,
not habit.
It's not the truth.
It's not a habit. That's all.
Exactly. Now, when you say you went to go stay with your father, so you're saying that you stayed with your dad on weekends, so he had visitation rights. Was it every weekend?
Yeah, every weekend.
Oh, wow.
Mostly, yeah. I was quite lucky in that respect, and then, yeah.
So that means you didn't have to do Sunday meetings.
Yeah, so I'd be picked up from basically from the pub sometimes, from a bar. I was in the bar with my dad watching football with my dad.
Everybody
did. You know, and and then it was, I've got to go home early. Depending on if we had the afternoon meeting, evening. Well, I preferred the evening, so I got to spend most of the time with my dad, and then go later. But or actually, in the morning one was good, because I'd go the morning and it was done. I could just go.
You had the rest of the day for free. Yeah.
Wow, that must have been really confusing
the morning
for you.
meetings as well. Yeah, I always like the morning
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that had to be really confusing for you, because like you're doing this every week. So it's like, I'm through the week with the witnesses, but I'm at the pub watching football on the weekend.
And I was allowed to, Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was what was confusing, like sort of contradicting from my mum. But that, in her head, she was going through everything else that the elders are trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she couldn't. She there was this moral compass inside her that couldn't restrict me from seeing my dad.
That's true.
So, but it was always quite confusing though when I'd hear like, oh, my dad's gonna die at Armageddon. Like that was like one of my questions. It was like, so my dad's gonna die at Armageddon, and that's okay. Like how is that right? And that was always like, I think that's the thing that really pulled at me emotionally, because I was like, I'm associating him and his friends and me knowing he's a good person, where he's just going to die for no reason because he doesn't believe what we're believing. And that, to me, that's the brainwashing power of it. That's just so scary. And I don't think enough people realize the brainwashing behind it, because no one really seems to know who Jehovah's Witnesses are sometimes.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And that story is often related with kids who have quote unquote unbelieving parent. I mean, you hear the stories of the little children coming home We've talked to people who are married to witness women or witness men, witness husbands, and the child will tell, to that other parent, you're going to die. You're going to die. Jehovah's going to destroy you. It's like, well, who are you? What did you heard of that? Well, the brother said, everybody who's not at the kingdom hall going to die, and so, and for little kids, this stuff is very traumatic, telling their parents are going to die. And they're like, I was just with daddy last week, and so it's really tough. But let me ask you this question though. And you had a front row seat, as you looked at the kids at the hall and the people at the kingdom hall, and you looked at the people that your dad was with, did what was being described as worldly, wicked people, did it add up when you looked at it from as you watched these people? Because in the hall,
it didn't. It did. I suppose you saw. Obviously, I saw another side to people, a more sort of horrible side to people, more with alcohol being involved and being around, obviously in bars. And this was at a time, especially in England, where kids were in bars, we were outside, we were all playing together on the grass and things like that. So it wasn't like we were stuck around the bar, but you would hear things, and it would coincide with what you hear at the hall. It's like, oh, that's bad. It's like, yeah, that. So there was that, I suppose, that was conflicting, that made me go on the side of the witnesses at times, because it's like, well, they are speaking the truth there, but it's like, do I care? Probably not, because everyone's human, and you're taught to be forgiving and accept everyone for who they are, and it's a permanent, like, you're permanently asking a question, and the answers, for me, the answer just changed to suit a certain scripture or the agenda that they wanted to pump out at you that week or that month.
Yeah, because I know many times the organization will use, when you have someone who may be doing, like you said, engaging certain types of activity, the organization will then take that and they will blanket it for every single person. So, like you said, people, they may be hanging at the bar or whatever, but and getting drunk or whatever, but that's not everybody. But as a Jehovah's Witness kid, or as growing up as a witness, you begin to see every single person as simply just bad. There is no basically good people that God would smile his favor upon. And so they like you said, that's part of the brainwashing. We're the only ones who do what's right. We're the only honest people. We're the only good people. And as you begin to look around, you begin to see, no, there are good people and there are bad people. And you have to use discernment who you're going to hang with and be involved with. So it is very interesting how that works.
What age were you when you finally decided that you weren't going to get baptized? And before that happened, did your mother ever try to coerce or persuade you to get baptized?
I think she always wanted me to. And I knew I didn't really want to. And I know that she meant well when she was saying, oh, you can go to Bethel. And I looked at Bethel and I looked at that work and they do. And I did. And you watched that video, the original one, and the other ones that have come out. And I can't be negative about it, because it's like, it seemed nice. And I know that she meant well, but it was probably when the doubts set in about 13, I knew by 14, 15, it was like, how am I going to, it was just working out, how am I going to tell my mum that I don't want to be part of this?
Wow. Yeah. Everyone, when you reach a certain age, you start realizing, I got to go in one direction or the other. When you decided that you were not going to get baptized and your mom became aware of it, what was y'all relationship like at that point? Because parents feel you're leaving Jehovah, that kind of stuff.
Well, I went off to I went to college after school, which is a thing that's like I don't know what the equivalent is for in America. Probably like high school, maybe. I don't know. But I went and did music. I wasn't meant to be doing business studies, and I chose to do music because I wanted to play drums and I wanted to learn about the music industry. Now, I never knew what I wanted to do as a career, because it's like I didn't get taught about what going to university was. And my relationship with my mum and my dad, they didn't like me doing what I was doing anyway. So I was disobeying my dad at the same time as disobeying my mum. So that was weird because I could do no wrong for my dad. But suddenly doing music at college was what annoyed him. So it was kind of fractured as I was getting older. And then my mum kicked me out.
So why didn't you think what's the deal with music over in the UK? I mean, what's the deal with that?
What was the concern?
Do they don't like that, the musicians and stuff like that? How's that viewed?
I think it was because the original course that I wanted to do was like just business studies. And it was more vocational, it was more practical, and I was literally learning how to put on gigs. And for some reason they just thought, oh, you're just going to end up working in a bar. You're not going to be, you're not going to do much with your life. It's not going to be beneficial for you. So I think that was the worry there. My mum, I mean, even after, she obviously still wanted me, she probably still thought that I was going to end up back and baptized and an elder or whatever. She had those hopes. She always had that hope for me until she woke up.
Okay, so let's just back up a little bit. So you're saying that your relationship with your mom, when you decided to go study music, she kicked you out the house, right?
It was around that time, yeah. I probably did one. It was the end of my first year doing music. She kicked me out, and I went to live with my dad.
Okay, and what about the music? Did you ever finish?
Yeah, I finished the course. I was in a band for quite some time, and the experience was amazing. And if it wasn't for college, I wouldn't have had that experience. So that was beneficial. So I managed to rebel against both my parents, even though I never had to. I never faced that with my dad because he wasn't in the cult.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you're saying that, because it's like, well, on the religious side, they weren't going to like it, but you were just kind of shocked that your father would be feeling the same way, because of course they want you to go into business because it seems like it's more, it's
a steady job.
It's gonna give you a better career opportunity.
It might have taught me how to be a window cleaner. Like that's the general job that you get when you're a Jehovah's Witness. So
exactly. Now, what are you doing now? What's your career like?
So I'm in sales at the moment. I'm a sales coordinator. I've just started a new job the last couple of weeks. But I've done all sorts. I worked in a warehouse. I worked in a clothes store, and business development. And I've done all right considering I didn't get to go to uni.
Yeah.
Well,
what university? Do you know any Jehovah's Witnesses who actually sent their kids to the university?
There was. I remember actually that one turned up, and he was a really, really good kid. Really, I'd say spiritual, like in terms of Jehovah's Witnesses. Like he was like he was an unbaptized publisher at like 14. Like he was, I didn't get on with him that well. It was just like, you were just a dweeb. Like, just like that, I can't have a conversation with you. But he ended up in the college. I don't know what he was doing, but yeah. And then he was a really weird kid in the end. And I never spoke to him. But when we were at college, I don't even know if he recognized me or not. Or he probably wouldn't be allowed to speak to anyone because he'd sit in the canteen on his own.
It's amazing how how we're talking about this education, and you realize that, hey, I'm 13 years old. I ain't gonna be no Jehovah's Witness, but you still got on board with, you ain't going to university. Now, did you not go to university because you didn't have the support of your family? You didn't have the funds to do it. What is it? The religion is still got a hold of your thinking? What's going on here?
I think it's more because I just didn't have a plan. I wasn't allowed to have a plan to plan a career, because it was like, well, you do this, you do that, you go to Bethel or whatever. I didn't have a true plan, because every time I asked my mum, she'd tell me, this is what you want to do, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that, but I wasn't, she didn't give me any other option. So I didn't get any help in getting the right forms, the right leaflets, or anything to even go into higher education, because I just didn't know the process.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And sometimes this gets lost when you're talking to witnesses sometime. There are only really two career choices for your young Jehovah's Witness youth. If you're a female, you pioneer. If you are a male, you pioneer and go to Bethel. Those are really the only two options that you have. And so if you decide not to choose one of those, like you said, you're lost. You're literally lost. You don't know what to do. And I tell people, we often get into discussion, college is not for everybody. And that's understood. There's some people don't need to go to college. They're able to do certain careers or go in pursuit they want to go. But that's not what we're talking about. And that's why I always try to cut this off at the pass when people started, well, everybody don't have to go to college. We ain't talking about everybody want to go to college. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the people who do want to go to college.
Right.
We're talking about, what does this religion teach about those who want to go to college? Because there are certain careers that people may want to pursue that may require going to college. And if you want to be in certain scientific fields, you want to be a biologist, you like studying, the marine animal, you want to be, Jacques Cousteau or whatever. And that may require you going to college. And so when this subject comes up, the witness will say, well, you can go to trade school. Once again, that's fine. But we're not talking about those who want to go to trade school. We're talking about those, we're talking about those who have the ability to go to college. And all they actually needed was support. That was it. People say, well, college is expensive. Well, that's true. But I look back at all the people I have met throughout the years I have been alive, Jehovah's Witness kids, who they would have got a full ride. Because they had the academics, they would have got the scholarships. And even if that is the case, what does a Jehovah's Witness say? I asked a witness once, I told a guy on my job, when you talk to a witness next time, ask him this question. If your child came home and said, Mama, Daddy, I just got a full scholarship in the United States to Yale or to Harvard, how many Jehovah's Witness parents would go to the Kingdom Hall that night and say, yo, man, I want to tell y'all something. Johnny, he got a full scholarship, and we're going to have a little thing over the house for him this weekend. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen.
No, it's not. But I think we should go back to what Dom said. At 13, he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And he mentioned a key word, plan.
Yeah.
He said, I didn't have a plan. So Dom, what would you say to a 13-year-old who happens to come across this video?
Yeah.
What would you say to them about this plan that you didn't have?
So I would talk to your teachers, basically. There are local, it was called Connections when I was around 16, but there's all sorts of schemes and things, to search online. And yeah, the school can help. And if a school has to act, if they can see that their students are being restricted at home, they do have a duty of care, I believe, and they will get involved. And it could even involve, social services as well, because it's denying you an education. So yeah, just speak to your teacher. If you've got an uncle that's out of the truth as well, that you might be able to see, have a word with, just anyone that you can trust that's outside of the church, maybe even a friend, if at school, who knows their dad might be a careers advisor or something like that. Just keep asking and don't be scared.
And the other thing that you mentioned, Dom, was the fact that because of the way you were taught as a witness, you didn't think too much of schooling. So what would you have done differently, knowing what you know now? How would you have learned more about your math problems, just whatever it is you were trying to learn in school? Well,
the work that I've gone into in my two most recent jobs are to do with water treatment, and now I'm going into electrical engineering. So I'd have probably listened more in science when it comes to like electrics and things like that. And I probably, to be honest, like the plan, I could have done engineering if I'd have had the brain capacity to do it. If I wasn't being fed Bible stories and all of that. To be honest, I think I would be capable, but now I feel lucky that I'm going into it and learning it a little bit and starting again.
Yeah, it is such a difficult situation. I know even here on this channel, those are probably the most difficult questions that we get. Out of all the questions, out of all the people who contact us, the worst example of someone who is in a catch-22 is a minor. We have young people who realize this is not the truth, and they are minors, and they want to know, well, what should I do? And it is very, very difficult because in different countries you have different legal laws and different rights as a young person. It's very difficult. And like you and Lady C was talking about, having a plan. But at 13 years of age, it's just so difficult. And this is what makes this high control. This is really what makes groups like Jehovah's Witness so dangerous, because you can't just get out. People say all the time, just get out. Well, everybody's circumstances is not the same, because you could just walk out and be off and gone is great, but that's not everybody's circumstance. And if you are a minor living at home, you 15, 16 years old, and you realize this ain't the truth. We have young people like today. Young people, they be up on the internet, man. We've talked to young people. They'll be sitting at the Kingdom Hall when they was having meetings, and they will be texting back and forth. You read that article that brother said about that? That's not what the magazine said, because they're going back and forth today. So they're getting an exposure that we didn't get, and you probably didn't get as well.
No, I didn't. I had the tapes, the Bible story tapes and everything like that, and the pictures, and the Revelation book as well. I loved that. All the pictures were amazing. Like all the bad people in there. That's what I look like now. Like with the denim. Like I feel like that's why I've gone to that alternative style, is because I saw the people with like cut jackets and denim and long hair, beard, because I did have a beard a couple of weeks ago. That's me, right? It's like that's probably what my brain's done. It's like that's what's made my style go into. I even want to get Revelation tattoos as well. The artwork from it. I still want to do that. Like,
the Revelation book will mess you up. You look at them pictures and then go to bed at night, boy, you can't sleep.
I can still see that the three-headed dragon thing. I can see that. I want it as a tattoo.
Oh my God!
I'd love to walk past one of the cars.
Oh, you scared?
Like, have a whole sleeve of like, you recognize that?
You scared me to death. Oh, they think you're demonic.
Oh my God!
Oh, that's funny.
That is so funny.
You're so cruel. They be running home. Oh
yes.
Man, but it is amazing.
Do you have any siblings, Dom?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I think that is something I'm lucky with, because what if like they didn't wake up and I was the only one to wake up, and I've heard stories about that as well, which is horrible. Luckily it was only one family member that was my mum.
Yeah. Well, what about your grandparents and stuff like that? When you got your mom and your dad, but what about your extended family?
So my mum, even on my dad's side, they still liked my mum. She'd still talk to them, and but they knew that she was a bit funny, and went to the. But people would refer to the meetings as my dad always used to call it the funny farm. That's what he used to. That's what he used to call
cold,
it.
Cold boy, you're damn cold.
Oh my God! But what I mean by your extended family, I mean like, did you get a chance to have a relationship with them?
Luckily, I was, yeah. Because my mum, in terms of like I mentioned before about friends and things like that, she was quite liberal in that sense, where because she still spoke to my mum and everything still, there wasn't much you could do about it, because I was only my dad was only down the road, and my uncles were down the road too. So it wasn't. You couldn't escape family. Yeah.
Right. But the main thing is your life was turned upside down because of the indoctrination.
Yeah. I mean, it was just to see my mum got disfellowshipped as well. So I was going to the meetings with her when she was disfellowshipped, and we were just obviously shunned and ignored. we had to sit at the back of the hall, and that was something that was probably the most traumatic, probably for me, emotionally, because it was like, why are we being treated like this? Like, I know my mum had done wrong, but this is just like, again, not right. It doesn't feel right. There's no one else I can speak to and go, have you been to a place with your mum where you're all just ignored and told what to do by someone on a platform? No. And there was no way of relating to it, and there was no way of me going, well, I was happy that my mum was getting better, so I was happy when she got reinstated, and I was happy that we could all speak to people again. But then it was like, well, what was the point? Like, really, what was the point? It was just horrible. And I look back on that a lot and think that that's probably the worst thing, especially when I was lucky because I didn't have family members shunning me and things like that. So I can imagine it was much worse for people.
Man, so your mother,
that's deep.
Right? So your mother was this fellowship. You weren't even baptized, but you were being shunned too.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid. The elders would still talk to me, and still be smiley with me, but wouldn't be with my mum. Like, it was so weird. It was a really weird dynamic of like, real happy, smiling with me. Oh yeah, I'm going to be nice to you. But then you're just like, not really talking to you. It was just a weird.
It's such, because here they are smiling at you and look at your mom, and they're treating her like dirt. And this is really one of the reasons why we decided to do this little series, because we think it's very important that people see the lives that are impacted. Here you were not baptized, but you were a minor of a parent who's disfellowship. So you go to the Kingdom Hall with a disfellowship mom. You said the Kingdom Hall. How many young people and other youngsters in the Kingdom Hall whose parents are pioneers and elders and ministerial service are going to come over to you and say, man, good to see you tonight? That's not going to happen too many times, because they're.
And we had to leave straight away as well. So we weren't allowed to. I didn't hang around. So it was just leave straight away. I was that kid that left with that person for a year. So I was effectively disfellowship from my friends as well.
Absolutely. For all practical purposes, you were disfellowship and you were never even baptized. That's crazy.
Oh man, so you did. So you were old enough to capture all that. How old were you?
Probably 7 to 8 or 8, 9. Yeah, it was around that time. I didn't have many. I didn't like.
No, that's bad.
I got treated bad. I was bullied even from kids in the church as well, to be fair. So that wasn't very nice. There wasn't many people that I actually liked there anyway, but it was still the interaction. Other than school with my people my age, it would have been there.
Wow.
That's terrible. And you know what? And that's like traumatized twice. You're in school trying to be a Jehovah's Witness, and then you're, at the Kingdom Hall and you're not accepted.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's terrible. Yeah.
I mean, you're getting dogged all the way around. I mean, 24/7, you're just getting dogged. And so after a period of time, that eventually takes its toll on a person. It takes its toll. Man, that's very powerful. Very powerful.
So then when did you actually wake up to the real truth about the truth, even though, because you didn't want to do it, you knew this wasn't right, but then you got some evidence. What was your hard, cold evidence?
Yeah.
That you got?
I was the child abuse and things like that came out.
Yeah.
I think that was undeniable, and I still don't understand how witnesses still will insist that it's being made up or it's being blown out of proportion and things like that. So it was when I read more into that, and with John Cedar's channel as well, it helped really solidify that this is wrong and they need to be stopped as well. And there's more people out there that need to be saved.
Yeah, those are the type of things, and the point I try to stress to people: when you see people going into this deep denial, that really we want to use that. We want to use that as a confirmation that Jehovah's Witnesses are indeed a high control group. People often, they throw out, people throw out the term, they're Jehovah's Witnesses are cult, Jehovah's a cult. Well, if you're a cult, you got to do cult stuff. And see, that's the kind of stuff the cults do. And so we want to recognize that. And so I tell people, you can't accuse the witnesses of being something unless they're going to do it, and they're doing it. So you need to accept this is part of what they do that identifies them. And then you can decide what you want to do, because now you realize, I know what I'm working with. I know exactly what I'm working with. And so it's amazing. It's just simply amazing.
Absolutely. So is there anything else you want to talk about your personal experience that you can help someone else by telling your story, and just anything that you want to just state?
Well, I don't hear many people who say, particularly in England, the UK, that have been in the same situation as me. I know everyone else's story is different, but if there is anyone there watching that still has the fear of God, even though you've told your parents that and you're not going into the meetings, and they've accepted that in their way because they can't shun you because you're not baptized, is just still hold out hope that maybe one day that your parents will wake up, or your family member will wake up. And the thing that I wasn't prepared for was the mental health side of people that have lost 20 years of their life essentially to a cult. And it's hard. I think that the support, there's not a lot of support out there, even with mental health services. There's nothing specific for Jehovah's Witnesses falling into the real world. There's nothing. They go through so many other issues, and that's what I think people need to be prepared for. I know it's not positive. I'm trying to be positive here, but it does get better. But for me, I just wasn't prepared for that side of it. I was like, yay, my mum's woken up. Then other stuff happens, and you're not prepared for seeing someone go through so much suffering again as well, for me, because obviously I'd seen her disfellowshipped and gone through all that as well. So that was to see that carry on with the suffering was just, when it's meant to end and you're taught the whole time, suffering is going to end, and that's what's drilled down your throat. It's sad, and I just be prepared for it, but still don't give up.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That is really, that's an excellent point, because that is the problem. The mental health side, having to deal with it. And what happens is, and you may have seen this personally in your own life as well, it also affects your relationship with other people. When you start, when you start dating, or you start getting involved with someone romantically, and you want to get married or whatever, just any type of relationship that you now are trying to establish, it's awkward, because when you tell these individuals who have no reference point like we have, they're like, I've never heard of that. I mean, we've talked to so many people who they started dating someone, or they got married to someone, and then they say, my mama don't speak to me at all. And they say, well, what happened? Well, because I don't go to the Kingdom Hall. And they're like, because you don't go to the same church? What kind of crazy? I thought you stole something from your mama or something. Right. And so they're not prepared, and it's very difficult for them to understand what we have been through. And so we hope that Lady C and I, we often, talk about this. We hope that our channel, as well as other channels, can at least provide some assistance, because many professional people in the professional mental health, they're not familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses. No. They never touched these types of issues. And so we bring something new to the table of discussion. I guess you can put it that way.
But what? It's really it's starting to catch on a little bit more, because the Jehovah's Witness community, the ex-Jehovah's Witness community is a growing community, and a lot of people, even that weren't raised as witnesses, they come to our channel sometimes, and they talk about how they didn't realize that Jehovah's Witnesses was going through all this, and that they're learning about our community. And so I think that a lot more people are probably going to be going to school for this, even from in the Jehovah's Witness community, ex-witness community, and being able to be those psychologists and psychiatrists.
We know people, right? We know people. We actually know people they have a desire, they want to reach out and help, and so they're actually pursuing degrees in that mental health area. That's what
Yeah.
that space has room in it for people with the background of Jehovah's Witnesses to feel.
Absolutely. Now, Dom, you mentioned that your mother started to wake up with the Australian Royal Commission.
Yeah, yeah.
So
she was obsessed with it. She was obsessed with she watched every. She even got in. I think she even emailed someone within the case, and they got an email back, and they thanked her for some information that she really helped her. Like it was that catalyst of like, you know, she felt a sense of belonging, and when she was talking to other ex-witnesses. But I think it's a case of the danger is with, I think, when people do leave and wake up, is that they will latch on or become quite obsessive, but not in a bad. No, but it's just like they've lost everything now. They've got to get something, and it's all or nothing sort of thing. So she was absolutely obsessed, and it was really nice though, because you could see her healing at the same time, and we we got closer as well, because I finally was free from this fear of God, because my mum had woken up. So it's definitely not the truth. It can't be the truth now, like, sort of thing. Like that is, you know, it's like I was 99.9999% sure.
I know, right?
That was the one that did it for me.
That's good.
I'm glad to hear that. So your mom is healing now?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's good. And it was just you and your mom. So now it's like I can go back to my family, right?
Yeah.
Does she have any siblings, your mom?
Yeah, she does as well. But it's always been a rocky sort of thing with them not understanding. They actually prefer her in the cult.
Oh my God.
Because because they couldn't cope with the they didn't cope very well with the real person that she became and wanted to become. So they were very judgmental. And really just wanted her to go back in the church and not bother them, sort of thing. That's the way I see it anyway. And
she's out now.
She's out now. That's all that's important.
That's all that matters.
Right.
Okay.
Well, have you guys tried to seek out some therapy or something? Maybe you and your mom together, or just you?
We've had our own issues with other things. And I've chose to go on a certain route. And work on myself with like other therapies and things like that, because I've got BPD, borderline personality disorder. So that was diagnosed to me like 4 years ago. So that was really tough, and I do think that's because of my upbringing and because of being in that environment, unfortunately. And I don't know if there's anyone else out there that's in my position that's developed BPD and were unbaptized or baptized with it. It'd be interesting to see that if there's a pattern there, and that can help mental health professionals really give people that support.
Yeah, that's good, because one thing is for sure, people often say, did I get this from the Jehovah's Witness or this and that, and I always tell people, there's one thing that you can rest assured: if you had any issues, the Jehovah's Witness program definitely don't help.
No,
it just simply adds more gas on the fire. And
That's true.
Because the way the culture is, the constant judgment, the demands, the jumping of the hoops, that's the last thing that anybody needs who is struggling with trying to keep a balanced life and a balanced perspective. You don't need some group that's threatening God killing you with not doing A, B, and C. You don't need that. That's a burden you don't need to bear in addition to whatever you're dealing with in your life.
That's true. Well, Dom, I am so glad that you were able to tell your story, to stay up to late to talk to us. We appreciate that. And for those of you who want to leave a comment, telling Dom about what you think about his experience, and if you can help him, get some resources, because we'll look for resources too. But we always leave all of our information in the description of our video. Is there any resources that you want to give a shout out to?
There's basically, if there's anyone that I don't know can relate to me and wants to contact me, I'm on most social media as well, and I have a streaming platform where I can talk about anything really. So if I can help one person, like all the pain that I've been through and everything, if I can use that to heal at least, just one person, then it wasn't all in vain.
Yep.
That's
That's the way I see it.
That's the way that's exactly the way we see it. That's why we tell people everybody needs to let their voice be heard, because you can rest assured we all fed from the same trough, and there's going to be someone who's going to say, that's me.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the program. And this has been Lady C.
And this has been JT.
And we'll see you all in the next episode.
Thanks a lot.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.